Good afternoon everyone, I'm Des, I'm the Director of Services at Help and Care. We're a charity based in the Folkestone area, but we provide services across Dorset, including Bournemouth and Poole. We're one of those organisations that are so diverse and do so many things, it's difficult to capture it in a strap line, and there's lots of work that goes on to kind of get the elevator statement, and we still haven't cracked it. But to describe what we do in terms of a summary, we try to provide advice, guidance and support for individuals. We like to mobilise communities to provide advice, guidance and support for each other, for their own. And we also provide social enterprise services to get people back on their feet, back into work again and engaging in meaningful activity. So our strapline that we're using at the moment is helping people to live the lives that they choose. So similar to what Alistair was saying, very much around enabling and getting people from A to B on that journey. So what does that look like? Usually the first port of call for people who want to access our services or making an inquiry is through our gateway service. So it's a telephone handling service. Think less NatWest and more Samaritans, because what we're dealing with are very complex calls. Lots of people who are in a very difficult situation, are very distraught, and they need specialist ears at the other end and very empathetic responses. So we've got these specialist workers in the gateway who'll take a call, and it's very much a holistic response, because the call might be something about how do I access attendance allowance, and our callers will engage in a conversation that will probably evoke a response that's, I'm also a carer and I haven't been outside my house for 3 months, and actually the landlord's on my back and I'm really worried about my own health and well-being. So it's that nature of engagement, and very often we're not about giving people the form to fill out for the attendance allowance. It's about plugging them into a range of other services, either in-house at Help and Care or other organisations across the county. Last year we took 25,000 calls in the gateway, and most of them materialised into something that you can recognise as a case. So it was more than one initial contact. It involved lots of contact and toing and froing with that particular caller. You might then at that point get referred on to one of our advocacy team. So for instance, if you use that last caller where the lady's having trouble with her landlord, our advocacy worker might step in there to advocate on their behalf with the landlord. And we had a particular case last year where a local authority who was a landlord decided to evict a gentleman because he wasn't living in the property that he'd been allocated. It turns out he was separated from his wife and he was caring for her in another part of town between Monday and Friday, and sleeping in a caravan in the grounds of her home. So yes, he wasn't in his accommodation Monday to Friday, but he was using it at weekends for respite, and he was doing a very good job. He was then brought through an eviction process due to his mental health issues. That conversation with the local authority didn't go very well, and our advocate stepped in to support him during that process. The great news out of that story was that the particular local authority changed their policy around how they deal with evictions for vulnerable people, and how those interactions during those meetings are carried out in terms of having other responsible adults in the room, etc., etc. So it was a really good piece of work by our advocate. Other services that we provide, which I'm hoping may be of interest to you, are in that you may be able to share them with the people that you're working with. So many of our people tend to be older people and vulnerable people, and we have a membership scheme called Handyworks Plus, and this is a service that provides tradesmen to people who run a risk every time they pick somebody out of the yellow pages that they're going to be ripped off. So Handyworks Plus is a membership scheme where for £30 a year you will get a DBS checked tradesman to come to your home to do the plumbing, the handiwork, etc. that needs to be done. All the interactions and engagement, whether through the finances and charging for that service, is done through Help and Care. The tradesmen are people that we select, we recruit, and we meet with on a regular basis to make sure they're working to the values of Help and Care. So I just think that might be a very useful service for you to be aware of when you're working in the community with vulnerable people. Another service that we're particularly proud of, I'm going to say this because the Commissioner is in the room, is the Roots service, which is a service delivered by people who are recovering from mental health illness to older people in the community in terms of doing grounds maintenance and keeping their garden a safe and nice place for them to continue to use. It means that the volunteers who are delivering the service, as people recovering from mental health issues, are getting meaningful activity, engagement on an ongoing basis, and the client who's receiving the service is also getting a service that engages her with people. They're also our eyes and ears on the ground, so very often those people are lonely and isolated will get plugged into other services through our Roots Gardeners. So much more to tell you, but please do come and talk to me afterwards. And I also want to hear from you about ideas and initiatives that you think are worth pursuing. It's not just about saying what we've got now, we want to work with you to develop.